was thinking of the basic principles in Adidas teaching and also in other developmental psychologies, is that there are two areas of the body that are primary in the first stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
One is the oral
Mm-hmm.
cavity,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is the anus,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, the first stage of life is associated with fear, has to do with the anus, the
Mm-hmm.
closing,
Right.
and that muscle has to be learned,
Mm-hmm.
right, to be exercised. But if you are in a chronic state of
Fear.
this
Perineum.
perineum will be locked.
Yeah. There'll be a tightness there, a lack of rest in the body, as the body, with the body. And that's something you can only do once there's been a kind of a ordinary mastery of the body-mind, of the body. And then you can rest, because this mastery orients you to feeling connected via relationship rather than consolation.
Right.
And they, in terms of mentality, they do well with fairy tales. It's a very magically, or the understanding has been characterized as magical, and fairy tales. Those are kind of things that they make sense to them. But what makes most sense is something that touches, manipulates, helps, moves their body, pleasurizes their body. Well, that's what they're going to understand most. So instead of talking to the child, you'll pick them up.
So, since the first stage of life has these qualities to it, what would be a sign for both the adult and the child of a fully developed first stage character or bodily based person?
Well, rest in and as the body. And that's only achieved, as it were, through bringing harmonization to the bodily functions, or discipline, bodily discipline. So you can't just indulge yourself. You can't just eat ice cream cones for the sensation of going ooh and grow up. It won't work that way.
So you could just apply that to all pleasure with the oral cavity of food, being the food addictions that adults have.
All
that
kinds
can't...
of food fascinations, obsessions. Those are all signs of someone who hasn't rested the body in God for adults.
Right. Okay.
And for children, they need to learn intimacy or feeling connection in three ways, as Master points out. First, via the natural world. They need to, with the book about nature deficient children these days, yeah, it is essential that we go out and feel bodily what it's like to be in nature. We need to cultivate that with others. We need to turn out of throwing a fit for ourselves and my pleasure, my lollipop, so that we share one, or we share two lollipops instead of me having both of them. We need to discipline food. We need to discipline our orientation to being just thinking about ourselves, to sharing. So there's a variety of, that would be how we would practice intimacy with others. And then also we should practice intimacy with the great mystery and wonder that where we are arising. We are in God. We are in the mystery. And even small children can recognize what is magnificent. And they don't have to know it. You can just see it in beauty, right, in love. And so acculturating that sensitivity through those three forms, through nature, through relationship, and through a felt sense of the magnificence of the Great One, that will allow the body to really rest. And the simple autonomy will be obvious. And then from that, the feeling then grows that becomes the beginning of the second stage of life. So that's how I would characterize it, both for the child and for the adult. The key here is, for adults, is to recognize this drivenness toward pleasure.
That's a key element for adults.
Because because without this first stage in place, it's the foundation, literally.
And for many of adults, that could then develop further problems, because now other developmental stages are developing to the second stage in your adolescence and adulthood, and here down here at this primary level,
if it's not wide developed, it is pyramidic, you know, like a pyramid. What did Milarepa build? A pyramid. And this is the foundation. So if your base is narrow, how you might get up to the higher levels, but a good wind is going to blow it over.
right?
So you need your base to be foundation to be wide and deep.
And that is that physical
That
first
is that
level
physical,
of adaptation.
somatic intelligence, somatic disciplines, somatic harmonization.
And if it's not developed properly or maladapted,
Mm-hmm.
then these will show itself in
in a myriad ways.
a myriad of other ways, in the maladapted ways of which adults function.
Right.
For fear,
Right.
for food obsessions, for bodily-based experiences, for all sorts of things that really are unconscious to the adult.
Right. And then we inherit a world full of mad children who are overwhelmed by births and deaths.
And fear. And we feel that the other is our enemy based on our fear.
Bodily based naive realism of this is real and therefore everybody else is out to get me. But the grand alternative, the wonderful alternative is to understand this, harmonize the lower or the gross faculties, and on the basis of that turn into relationship.
Right.
And we re-achieve that sense of connectedness through relationship with others, with the natural world, and with the mystery itself.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much. And the next session we will develop and talk about the second stage of life. So for this evening, I want to thank Frank for coming to the B-Zone Studios.
Very exciting.
And we look forward to speaking with you again. So have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Breathe deeply. Ah.